All right, so there's a lot I have to say in response to this. These kinds of criticisms from this guy, I honestly believe that these people usually overstate how bad Trump is, and they understate how bad Biden is. Well, you're more ideologically in agreement with Biden than you are in agreement with Trump. Well, actually, when it comes to the First Step Act, I agree with Trump on that. When it comes to pardoning Alice Johnson, I agree with Trump on that. When it comes to TPP, Trump's against it, Biden's for it. I agree with Trump on that. I agree more with Trump on North Korea than I agree with Biden.
A few years later.
And then, like, for you to go from Bernie in 2016 or 2020, I think 2020, and then go to Donald Trump in 2024, I don't buy this idea of like, oh, we should all be the Joe Rogan whisperer and like be really nice to him to try to get him back to our side. No, fuck that. I was the guy who, before anybody else was even paying attention, I was holding his hand and walking him through it slowly and explaining it to him like he was a fucking child.
Come on,
and he
Joe.
would nod along in agreement.
Come on, buddy. Come on, don't be scared. Come on.
And then, you know, when I'm gone, then Ben Shapiro comes on a couple weeks later and he nods along in agreement to Ben Shapiro. And Steven Crowder comes on and he nods along in agreement with Steven Crowder. And then this fucking asshole comes on and that fucking asshole comes on. So the bottom line is he's a contradictory character. And he'll vibe with, mostly 95% of the time, he'll vibe with whoever he's sitting across from. But there is no ideological core. At the end of the day, when somebody is that contradictory, what it comes down to for Joe, how he makes voting decisions, is vibes. And I am waging war on vibes-based voters because it's not tenable and it's not serious. So with Trump in particular, he likes the vibe. I think he's anti-establishment. I think he's anti-elite. I think he's anti-corruption and pro-worker and anti-war. Literally every single one of those things is verifiably untrue, and it doesn't take long to debunk it. And there's zero paying attention to the extremism of Trump, the extremism of Republicans. Now he's cocooned himself in a right-wing echo chamber. I don't know if you saw this, but recently he said he's going to go to Mar-a-Lago to do some podcasts, and Trump may pop in every now and then. And it's like, could you imagine if a comedian was like, I'm going to go hang out with Joe Biden at his vacation house in Delaware on Rehoboth Beach, and maybe he'll pop in every now and then. He would get roasted. Everybody would say that guy is a fucking hack. Not a comedian, not funny, loser, snuggling up to power. So that's why I said he's more like Rush Limbaugh than George Carlin.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about some more left-wing lunatics and the fact that they're still raging over Joe Rogan supporting Trump. Now, the left-wing lunatic that we have to talk about here today is no other than Kyle Kulinski, who I have talked about quite a bit on this channel lately because this guy has been losing his mind since the election, right? Since Kamala Harris lost, in which he infamously predicted that she will win Iowa, Ohio, and Florida. One of the worst election predictions of all time, right? That was not backed up by any real facts, any real data, any real evidence. He just went with vibes, right? But he claims that he hates vibes, right? He hates people that are vibe-based when it comes to their politics, like Joe Rogan. This is what he claims, okay? And essentially, he has been going on a crusade against Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan used to support the left. He used to support people like Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. And back in the day, Kyle was on Joe Rogan's podcast when Joe Rogan was much more left-leaning in his politics, okay, back in 2018, 2019, 2020, when I think it was kind of like cool to be a progressive, which nowadays it's not cool to be a progressive. But back when it was cool to be a progressive, right? Joe Rogan was on that train. And now Kyle Kulinski and other leftists, they feel betrayed, right? They feel betrayed because Joe Rogan has decided that, you know what, I am as an independent voter, right? I am going to side with Trump, right? I'm going to support Trump this time around because the Democrat Party has gone full-blown authoritarian, right? And some leftists like Kyle Kulinski, they don't seem to be smart enough to realize exactly why Joe Rogan made the shift, okay, and what they need to do in order to win people like Joe Rogan back. No. The leftists are essentially advocating for what they always advocate for when someone disagrees with them, when they don't agree with the left 100%, which is to shame them and to push them further away from the left, which is essentially what this guy is advocating for. Take a look.
But if you call yourself independent media, and you have $100 million, $200 million contract from Spotify, or you're taking money from shady billionaires left and right, or you're going to companies that contradict your values, your open express value, I'm sorry, that is no longer, you're not just independent media because you happen to be on the internet.
Yeah.
If you have the exact same incentive problems as the people in mainstream media, then you're fake independent media. You're not real independent media. And I'm now going to war because what we saw is a lot of these people like Joe Rogan, you know, I was there. I was on his show 4 or 5 times. He would sit there and nod in agreement when I would make anti-Trump arguments and arguments in favor of a left-wing worldview. Then 3 weeks later, Ben Shapiro would come on and say the exact opposite of me on every issue, and he would nod along in agreement, right? And so at some point, you got to call a spade a spade. You're not independent media, and you're clearly just a vibes-based voter, right? You cocooned yourself in this right-wing echo chamber where you got right-leaning UFC people and right-leaning comedians, and Dana White, his boss, is super right-wing and loves MAGA. He put himself in this echo chamber. COVID helped to break his brain, and then look at that. He goes full MAGA. And you know what? That makes me look like a jackass because I was the one going in there, taking him at face value, acting kind, holding his hand and walking him through it like he was a toddler on these topics. And then, wow, in retrospect, would you look at that? You completely flipped. I mean, we were defending him, unfortunately, way too late, right? When people were already on to, I don't know, man, he's saying a little bit more right-wing things here. And we would be like, well, no, look, here's a compilation of all the times Joe Rogan said base things. He argued for universal health care. He argued for free college. He argued for higher minimum wage and this good thing and that. And I would show that compilation and go, see, I don't know what you guys are talking about. But guess what? When you decide I'm going to endorse Donald Trump after he lied to your face relentlessly for the entire podcast, telling brazen lies, then I'm sorry, all the charity is gone, all the sympathy is gone, and I have to come to a different conclusion now. My conclusion of you could hold these people's hands and walk them through it and talk to them like they're reasonable and work it out. It just didn't work. It just didn't work. And that's why you see a much more bold, aggressive style out of me where I'm like, fuck these people and the horse they rode in on, because if what I did before didn't work, okay, I got to try a different approach now. So if it's just call these people the fucking frauds they are, well, then guess what? We're going to call them the frauds that they are.
But don't be like hard on yourself in that way. I mean, Bernie Sanders did the same thing where he was trying to go there. And I thought at the point Rogan could be reasoned with in that way. And his audience, it was important to try to communicate with them. Like, the thing is like, go on all these platforms. It's like why I went on Tim Pool, but I'm going to go there in a way where I'm not going to try to get invited back. Like, I'm going to go there and try to...
Adversarial.
At this point, specifically with explicitly right-wing outlets, you got to go in there and you've got to eat their lunch, because the only time that leftists get reinvited to these places is if you validate everything that they say. Right. And then that creates a perverse incentive for those leftist communicators as well, because there's so much more money on that side of the equation. It is awash in money, and we're kind of scraping by on our end because turns out like socialized healthcare and those kinds of policies, not necessarily the kind of thing that corporations want to fund in like a communications medium.
Yeah, so again, I find this to be hilarious for multiple reasons. First and foremost, once again, we can see the intolerance of the left, okay? They can't accept the fact that Joe Rogan is actually really an independent thinker, okay, in his politics, in which he's not necessarily aligned with one side or the other, and that he can be flipped, he can be changed. His views can change. Everybody's views change over time, given more information. But the left, they don't allow you to do that, right? They don't allow people to decide that, hey, you know what? Maybe you guys are out of control when it comes to some of these positions, and that is why I have to support the other side this time around. No. They can't fathom that, right? Just like Kyle Kulinski can't fathom the idea that Joe Rogan is now independent, right? And the reason why he's saying this is because Joe Rogan has billionaire friends, and because Spotify pays him, and because he talks to advertisers directly, that is Kyle Kulinski's argument for why Joe Rogan is not independent. Now, I will say this. If that is what Kyle Kulinski defines as being independent, right, is not taking any advertising dollars or not being paid by a third-party entity, that means that there are no so-called independent media on the internet at all, right, unless you're just taking money from fans, and that's it. Because Kyle Kulinski's show is funded primarily by YouTube. And I guarantee you that if he started to say things that YouTube disagrees with, that they don't like, that they don't feel is advertiser friendly, there will be financial consequences. So everybody who's on YouTube has to abide by the guidelines of YouTube in order to stay on the platform, right? Which by Kyle Kulinski's own definition would mean that he's not independent media, right? But the only reason he's saying that Joe Rogan is not independent media anymore is because he's not a leftist, right? It's because he is not aligned with the left. And what these people don't understand, they don't realize, is that this exact conversation that this dude just had is the reason why people like Joe Rogan have abandoned the left, because of the fact that they're intolerant, right? A sane person would say, hey, Joe Rogan's my friend. We have a good relationship. If you have an issue with his politics, it would make more sense for you to pick up the phone and to call him and to talk about it and to understand where he's coming from. Because Joe Rogan, over the last 4 years or so, especially during the pandemic, became a target from the left. Not from the right, but from the left. It is the left that tried to deplatform him on Spotify. They tried to pressure Spotify to get rid of his contract so that he couldn't get paid anymore. It is the left that call him racist over jokes. It is the left that try to ruin a man's life and smear him as some type of science denier simply because he was treating his COVID in ways that weren't approved by the establishment, right? The left did that. The left, these are the people who went out of their way to try to censor people on social media for having opinions that they disagree with. And then they try to say that, well, he's a grifter, right? Basically implying that he has changed for money. When, again, I don't think that Joe Rogan has really changed that much. But if he really was in it for money, if it was really all about money, the easiest thing to do is to be a leftist, right? If you want to keep the money flowing in, the easiest thing to do is to align with the left, because the left do not get censored nearly as much as the right on these platforms where people make all this money. So again, this whole, well, he's a grifter thing is crazy to me, because the financial incentive is definitely not on the right, right? The financial incentive is definitely on the left, for sure, okay? At least for the past 4 years. But see, instead of realizing and understanding why is it that Joe Rogan got pushed away from the left, because the dude didn't want to support Trump, right? He really did not want to support Trump. That's why he supported Trump at the last minute, because you could tell in his heart it's not something he actually wanted to do. But I think that Joe Rogan feels as if he may have been forced to do so due to the fact that the left has gotten out of control. But instead of actually having some self-reflection about why is it that somebody like Joe Rogan has abandoned the left, no. The approach is, well, screw him. We're going to declare war on him because he disagrees with us, rather than, wait, how do we get him back, right? How do we try to get the independent voters that abandon us, that otherwise would agree with us and would be on our side? How do we get them back? Because again, a lot of those people have went to Trump, right? A lot of people that are supporting Trump, I think people don't really understand this. A lot of people that are supporting Trump are not like the stereotypical conservative right-winger, right? A lot of people that are supporting Trump actually were on the left not too long ago, right? But again, they've been pushed out. They've been pushed away from the left due to the fact that the left has gotten so extreme and so intolerant to other viewpoints. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. The response to Joe Rogan leaving is not self-reflection and conversation. No, the response is, no, F him. F him, right? Let's just declare war against him and smear him and drag him through the mud because he doesn't agree with us. As if that is going to help get Joe Rogan back on your side. It's not going to work. These people legitimately think that every conversation they have with somebody on the right has to be some type of debate. It has to be adversarial, that you have to be going at each other's throats. And you actually don't have to do that. That's not how most conversations work, in which you're getting people to agree with you, right? If you want people to agree with you, if you want to open people up to your point of view, right, your worldview, it's probably better that you have a civil and cordial conversation with them that's not grounded in animosity, that's not grounded in hate, okay, in which you truly try to understand why is it that they don't agree with me, and then you can use that relationship to change their mind over time, right? But again, that is a concept that apparently is foreign to the left. And over the past 4 years, the right has been doing that, right? The right has been having these conversations. They've been open-minded, right, towards people who disagree with us, okay? But at the same time, it's not this like extreme hate and vitriol towards people who disagree. It's more like, okay, well, we don't agree with you, but we don't agree for X, Y, and Z reasons, and that's it, right? And you keep it moving, and you're open to having, again, that conversation, and you know, people have noticed that. People have noticed that, wait, these people on the right, they're not that bad. They're actually not intolerant. They're not bigoted. They're not racist. They're not hateful. We may disagree on some things, but they're reasonable people, right? And again, that's why you see a lot more people come to the other side of the aisle, is because there's actual real tolerance for disagreement, right? Disagreement is not grounded in hate and vitriol, right? But on the left, any type of disagreement is grounded in hate and vitriol, right? It's treated as if it's do or die, is war, okay? And that's the problem, right? They have turned off so many people, and the reflexive reaction from these people is not to self-reflect, not to really understand what's happening, okay? Not to acknowledge the faults on their side. No. The reaction from these people is to double and triple down on the exact reason why people are abandoning their side of the aisle. And I think it's hilarious, to be honest with you. I really do. So, hey, I don't think this is going to win Joe Rogan back over. And, I believe that the left, they're really digging themselves in a deeper and deeper and deeper hole. And I hope they continue to do it, right? Continue to have this same attitude towards anybody that disagrees with you. And let's see how far that gets you. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.